Yo, what is going on, guys? You got Hikertoad here, bringing you guys my Season 2 draft analysis of the Hive, which is a three-division system with Beedrill, Kakuna, and Weedle. It's a very underrated league that's been getting a lot more deserved recognition as of late, as it has some good players, but unknown names. And so I'm very happy to be able to be a part of it, as there was this tournament where I got the chance to play, and I did well enough to place into Kakuna, but unfortunately didn't do well enough to do into Beedrill. So like everyone else in Kakuna, probably definitely want to try and move up, as Beedrill definitely has some fierce competition. So in this draft, I was lucky enough to get the 6th overall pick. And so this league is a tier-based system with multiple tiers in the tiers. Like there's 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, etc. So you can spend your point. So it's kind of like points. So you can spend, kind of isn't, but you can spend your points pretty efficiently if you do it right. But anyways, I got the 6th pick, so I was hoping to get some either Pure Black, Mew, Megalopony, Orlando T, something like that. Unfortunately, I think Pure Black went like I think like 3rd pick or something overall, which was definitely unfortunate, as that thing's a monster in the format. Definitely one of the best wall breakers, but instead I wanted to use a mon that I really haven't used that much. I've used it before, but not that much, and it's also been a while, and it's definitely one of the best, definitely top 5 Z-move users out there, being Landos Therian. And I'll say right now, it is indeed one of my Z-mons. I'll explain that later. But Lando T, just amazing mon overall. Like, you all know what it does. Like it's it's pretty self-explanatory. Offensive, defensive rocks, U-turn, momentum, pivot. Can run a variety of items. Doesn't even really need Z moves to really be strong. Could just run like soft sand, or like, I don't know. Could run a lot, as well as some cheeky sets like Calm Mind, as well as just being a good overall win con. And so with that came, I wanted to figure out what to pair this with. Originally, I was thinking about going something like Gypsy King did in the MPL and getting Mega Dancy, but unfortunately that was taken a few picks before me. So I definitely wanted to get a good answer to ice types first, another potential rocker, and also I wanted to make sure I have a good speed tier with Lando, as Lando isn't the fastest, as I think speed tiers are pretty good. So I get Infernape, which is, like, this is my, if you didn't know, this is my tier 1A, which costs 180 points. This is my tier 1B, which costs 160. So as you have 1,000 points in total, and you just have to get the regular 1 tier 1, 1 tier 2, 2 tier 3s, etc. But then you have 1,000 points in total, so this cuts off from that, which is very nice, as Infernape and Lando form a very nice speed tier, being very close together, while Infernape gives me something very close to the 110s, 115s, and the 120s, even though there's not many of those. Gives me some very early on momentum, which is very good. Another potential rocker, although both of these don't always want to be rockers, so definitely want to get some more rockers later on. It's a very good mix attacker, though, and they both destroy steel types that aren't like Skarm and Steela, because Lando doesn't deal with those too well, but they both deal with steel types amazingly. So I definitely wanted to get something that struggled with steels, so that I could use these to break the steels and then take advantage of them. And so since this gen is so offensively based, I guess you could say, I think it's very important to be able to pressure your opponent, and one of the better ways to do that is with Hazard Stack, which is why I got Scolipede, as it definitely, one of the biggest things that stops this from just sweeping teams or cleaning is bulky steel types with like a berry or something, or just Fizz death walls in general, which I can definitely wear at them with the combination of these three, as well as giving me access to spikes and toxic spikes, which is absolutely amazing, allowing me to be able to pressure my opponents and hazard stack them, as well as the fact that baton passing speed is allowed. You cannot baton pass speed plus sword stances, but you can baton pass speed, so I can potentially baton pass speed to like Lando and don't even have to set up a rock polish, which could definitely be threatening depending on the team. Oh yeah, Scolpede also really just gives me good speed early on, so I really don't have to worry about it later on, but the ability just being above the 110 and then being able to just pass its speed boost to something slower like Lando, or even something like in the base 80s or 70s, so it can definitely help give me momentum as well as baton pass, since I can just use that as momentum as well, even if I don't want to pass. And now for my next pick, I really wanted something that would appreciate the speed pass, because Lando obviously likes it a lot with Intimidate, being able to allow it to cushion hits and just come in, potentially set up and win. But obviously Nape is kind of frail with the 71, 71, 76, so I wanted a mon that would just be able to tear through teams with a speed boost and just be a massive threat that my opponents have to prep for. And so I got round 4, Mega Gardevoir. Now Mega Gardevoir is very, very good. Now obviously you probably know what it does, but first it fixes doesn't really fix, but it just makes there no gap in the hundreds range, as it closes the gap between these, with there only being 8 apart from that, and then 9 from that, which is very cool. Definitely helps versus like teams that like potentially want to speed creep. Definitely you have to try, like me and Xiao, definitely they want to outspeed this. And so you pretty much know what guard does. It's just an amazing wall breaker, and as well it struggles with steals as well, which these two help break. So they just really, Lando and guard is a combo that is really just impossible to switch into unless you have like Reggie Steal plus like Celesteela, but like no team's gonna have that. Maybe some like Poke Waters are definitely a bit annoying, but guard can still do a lot massive damage to them. And so with that I have a tier 1 mega, a tier A mega, a tier 1A, a tier 1B, and this is a tier 1B, which tier 1B costs 140 points, which from the usual league it's usually 120, so that means that I'd have to calculate that when thinking about my free picks, which is definitely something that I might potentially mess up on. But I see the water weakness. I don't have a switch into water types, which is definitely problematic, as well as I'm kind of weak to ground if that ground type can touch my Lando, like a Piloswine or Mamo, for example, is definitely something very threatening. And like I sort of want to get that Volt turn aspect completed on my team, so I go with the tier 2B Rotom Wash. Now I love Rotom Wash. It's definitely a very solid pivot with obviously good bulk with the Levitate, obviously Gold Switch, Willow, Screens, Pain Split, all of that. It's definitely a very, very solid mon. It's kind of cookie cutter in what it can do. We can obviously try and go offensive like Scarfed or Specs, which if your opposing team doesn't have a good grass type, it's definitely a viable bring that I could try and exploit out of my opponent's team. But yeah, Rotom just really covers a lot of weaknesses on my team. I could have gotten like a lower water type or like a lower electric type, but I definitely did want this water. Like I could have gotten Lantern later on, but I definitely felt that this was worth it. And coming up, I actually did want, which is kind of why I kind of I might have made a mistake, but I'm still happy. I wanted Metagross, but unfortunately that did get sniped. So with Steel types running out, that was definitely a bit of an issue, so I had to try and figure out. I really wasn't sure what to get at this point, but since Lando, well, I've gotten all my tier 1s and tier 2s that I want, that I've thought about getting, because I'm not going to have the points to get another one with a tier 1 Mega. I haven't dipped into tier 3, 4, or 5 yet, and so I felt like dipping down into tier 4 and getting Piloswine. Piloswine is very, very good. Gives me another ground type, which synergizes perfectly with Lando, being able to take the ice moves that it doesn't want to take. The only weakness they share is the water typing. So the combination of these two can definitely check electric types very well. Especially if I want to run like a Pasho on Lando or something. And even this thing has good bulk. So I could just like run Spadef and potentially take a hit. It also gives me that another rocker that I want, as I only have Lando and Leaf so far. And so this Mon is pretty much always a reliable rocker when it comes to games. So it's definitely something that is very, very solid in doing that. It's pretty simple in what it does, but like it's a mini Namo basically. Like it can still be pretty threatening to teams that don't, especially since I have Rotom Wash. So certain teams will not be able to deal with the combination of ice and ground, which is definitely huge. And at this point, I don't have any removal, and I really don't want defog, because I want to try and get that hazard stack and pressure my opponents, as well as just try to keep them up momentum. Lando's T getting U-turn, Vape gets U-turn, this gets Baton Pass, this gets Volt Switch, this just kills everything. And this kind of stops momentum, but it's still hard to switch into. So I want to try and keep up the momentum while getting a subpar remover, unfortunately, at this point, because a lot of the good ones have been taken. Like, I was originally thinking about getting like Starmie and Finny, but those went pretty early. So I decided to get Sarvina, as it keeps up the momentum with U-turn. It kind of struggles, it spins. It kind of struggles with 4 move slot syndrome, but it just like it has screens. Like screens is really good. You want to run Toxic, you want to run U-turn, you want to run Recovery on it, you want to run Spin, you want to run Drop Kick. So that's like 6 moves, maybe 7 viable moves for each potential game. I don't know why it thought that has that at 0, but definitely it's solid. It's good at what it does, but like it doesn't really do much outside of that. Like it has a decent attack stat, so maybe like slap a Scarf on it, or maybe a potential ban if I want to. But this is definitely, oh yeah, this is my first tier 3, my 3A right now. So I still need another tier 3, but this it's good from what I need. I could have gotten Domize, but which I think is potentially, which I think it's better in the regard that it can spin block while also spin, and it can't be spun block on because of its ghost stab. But I like that Domize can just keep up the momentum, so it can be useful so it can potentially be useful even if hazards aren't on the field. And so after this, and another reason why I didn't want Domize is because I get too late. So I really just needed the Steel type, and it was like either like this or Steelix or Matang, and I really didn't want Matang, and I already had Piloswine, so I really didn't want Steelix either. So I decided to get myself a good spin blocker in Doublade with it, as it has just really good defense and has some good bulk with the Violite, while also just potentially being threatening with the Sword Stance or just bulky. Gives me a good Pursuit Trapper, and it's just that switching that I need to what Steel types are supposed to switch into, like Fairy, Steel, Dragon. Like Guard can potentially like switch into this, but you really don't want to switch in Guard to too many hits. So this is definitely a good Mon, especially if I can get some good Wish Pass, which I actually have Wish Pass with the Mega Gardevoir, but it definitely doesn't want to run Wish all the time. So I definitely want to try and look for something that can try and support my Doublade, as this thing could be good if it's able to be kept healthy. So now, I have 4 rockers. 4? No, I have 3. So I wanted another solid rocker, but also just a really overall good pivot, just cover some weaknesses, and allow it to take some roles that are like stuff like Lando, or like Rotom, or just like any defensive mon. Like it can take that and also be offensively threatening. So I get Mesprit, as this thing's move pool is just insane. Like, it gets so much. Like, I haven't ever used this before, so I'm actually interested to see how well it does. But it also gets rocks, which I like. Gives me a 4th rocker. Gives me a decent speed tier, which actually, at this point, my speed tiers are very good. I'm trying to drop into the lower speed tiers as my higher ones with 91, 100, 108 or 9, and then 112, as well as with the speed pass. My speed tiers are definitely pretty solid, which I am definitely a big fan of. As well as this gets good supportive moves like Healing Wish. I think it gets Screens. Does it get Light Screen as well? Yeah, right, Light Screen and Reflect, which is I have a lot of Screens users, which could be good with potential setup. But don't want to reveal too much, but I mean, that's kind of obvious. I have a bunch of setup. Yeah, it's overall just good pivot, can get rocks, U-turn on out, another levitate user, which I really didn't need, but it's just all the better. Ground types aren't really that good against me. So, now right here I was gonna get something that I've used in the past that's very good, but unfortunately it was taken like a few picks for me, and that mon was a Alolan Persian, as it's definitely a good physical. It's a good pivot, gets the parting shot. It's a good dark type, as I didn't have a dark type at this point, which is unfortunate. But so I decided that since I'm gonna miss out on a few things, I really don't like any of the dark types left that I can afford. Because at this point, I have to get tier 4 and a tier 5. I think, yeah, because I can't afford it unless I like get like a tier 3A. Maybe I can get, I don't think I can, but maybe potentially, because this was a 3A and costed only 80. But I decided to get Aerodactyl here, as most importantly it's fast, which I don't really need the speed, but it's always appreciated. It gives me like a little speed gap between this and Scolipede, which a 120 mon would definitely be appreciated in this area. But like, this was kind of like at this point I just didn't care about my speed tiers because I thought they were pretty good. And so it's definitely a good mon with like stuff like Taunt. It's just a good late game cleaner. And it's another rocker, as well as if, let's say, my opponent has a good spin blocker. Like, this would be bags. What's a good... Oh. Okay, well, just for this example, since I can't think of them on, let's say someone has a Doublade, and like, obviously, well, let's Delmise. Whoever drafted Delmise, that can obviously wall my Serena, as it really can't do much to it. So if they have like Hazard Stack with like spikes and rocks, my team doesn't really appreciate that. So Arrow, if I really needed to, I can use it to defog away the hazards, which is definitely appreciated, as well as just get them out. This is has on its own. Butchered that. As it's very good at that potential hazard lead, like Sash. It gets Endeavor, no, but it just gets Taunt rocks, which is just good for Sash lead. So it's pretty solid mon. It's definitely gotten better this gen, as with Z moves it can fire off stuff like it has good fly stab, like with Sky Attack and like potential like Earthquake, Fire Fang, Stone Edge, and with Unnerve it's definitely very good because it prevents them from eating berries. So with the last pick, there wasn't much in tier 5 that I really wanted, but like I had to kind of make do with what was left, and so I figured that I wanted another Wisher, and I really couldn't find one with the other picks. So I decided to get Audino, as it's a very good bulky sort of mon with some nice utility like Heal Bell, Wish, obviously, Healing Wish as well. Didn't actually know that. Gets Encore as well for setup sweepers, which can definitely be useful. Like, gets dual screens as well, so I have another dual screens user, which is good. Like, a lot of my team just appreciates Wish, like Mesprit, yes, Blade, Lando, Rotom, like all of those mons, as well as Piloswine, just all appreciate the Wish. So that's just huge if I want to bring a potentially like fat team. If my opponents don't really have any major threats to my team, I can just wish them all up and keep them healthy and just essentially stall my opponents out. Which is kind of scum, but it's really not. But with that is my draft, and so now it's time to pick Z-Mons, and I really like how the Hive does it with Z-Mons. You get 240 points, and each tier costs a certain amount of points. For example, tier 1 costs 100, tier 2 is 80, tier 3 is 60, tier 4 is 40, and tier 5 is 20. And so because of that, I have to choose carefully which mons I pick my Z-Mon. So like unfortunately I can't have Lando T, Infernape, and Scolipede all as Z-Mons, which is actually what I really wanted to do, but that costs 280, which is 40 above the limit. So I can't do that. I could do both Lando Nape, and I could do both Scully Lando, Scully Nape, all that. But I definitely, like, Lando is just so good with Z-moves. Like, I have to make him Z-Mon. It's one of the best out there. It's definitely very solid, and this makes it much more threatening with its plethora of just, like, it has 145 attack, that's no joke with Z-moves. Like, it's definitely very solid. And so, with that, I have 140 points left. And I could also spend my points on status Z-moves, but there's really not any mons on my, and I really think that really benefit from the status, as Lando doesn't really care about the status Z-moves. Scolipede doesn't really care about it, neither does Infernape, like not even like Mesprit or Dino. Only thing I would have considered is if I got a Alolan Persian, I probably would have made that my status C, but since it costs 20 extra points to make it as status C, I'm not going to just do it for the fun of it. And so I ultimately decided that because the Scolipede is a really good cleaner, and this helps with it, I wanted Scolipede to be my next Z-Mon, as it definitely, as it can SD and just be very threatening, like with Ground EMC, Earthquake, Water EMC, Aqua Tail. Like after an SD, it can blow something back, like a Fizz Def Suicune would die to a +2 Buggy and oh god, I'm not even gonna try to say that. Buggy and Z, Mega Horn, it just blows that away. And if they don't have, and usually teams only have like 1 or 2 counters to this, so if like they're weakened, and then I can hit them with a Z move and just proceed to sweep the team either there or just later on in the battle, which is definitely huge. And for my last one, I wanted Aerodactyl, as this is one of the reasons I even drafted it, as its viability as a Z-Mon is definitely very scary. I think in previous gens to this, it was kind of subpar, as it's kind of weak, especially even with the Life Orb. And Z-moves just give it that immediate power, allowing it to just revenge its stuff easily, especially since it can probably run the Adamant Nature against most teams, which is definitely very threatening. Like, I think versus 110s, around there, around that speed tier is where I think it works. Like Nape, I think could have been a good option over Scolipede, but I definitely think I made the right choice, as Nape still can use other items very efficiently, while Scolipede can only use the Life Orb, and it definitely has more of a sweeping potential than Nape does, as it's more of a breaker, and the SD set doesn't always have the best matchup to clean. So I definitely think that was the better choice. So yeah, that was my Hive Draft Analysis. There are 10 weeks in the season, with the top 2 best records in the regular season, and then the Kakuna champion who wins all the playoffs, moving up into B-Drill. So definitely aiming to get that spot up into B-Drill for the next season. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys, if there is someone that ended up staying and watching this far, thank you for doing that. It's definitely appreciated with my first video, as this was probably a bit cringy, but I will see you guys later.